morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and I am so happy to be here and happy that you're here with us.
Yes, we are. Hi, we're still in New Mexico.
Yes, we are.
I'm still in New Mexico. We're together, and we're excited because it is a new year.
It is a new year. What year is it?
2023.
2023. Can you believe it? 2023. Do you remember growing up as a kid and thinking that anything past like 2000 was going to be crazy?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, because there was a point at which, like, when you used to learn about things in history, you learned and in the 1902, you thought, oh my God, those people must be so old, or they would never be alive, or any of that. And then the next thing you knew, you kept getting close to those ending numbers.
Yeah. But hey, what do the numbers really mean? What do they really mean? Nothing really, right?
It's all just a marker of time and space that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But it's wild. I mean, it's wild to think about it. What does it really mean? Speaking of what does it really mean, here we are. It's a New Year's. It's a new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What does that really mean?
Wow. Well, it is January 4th, which is exactly, give or take a day, 1 year from our very first show, which was on January 5th of 2022. So this is our second season since we decided to finally change seasons, since we changed years. So the second season of our podcast, video podcast, is very exciting. And our whole theme, our whole idea, the whole reason we do this is to talk about relationship, talk about rocking the love. How do we rock the love? And so in light of that, we've decided this year to adopt the Centers for Spiritual Living yearly theme as our yearly theme. We're not going to go by the other ones, but the yearly theme is living out loud. Whew. So this week we get to jump into January and talk a little bit about what that's all about.
And about living out loud, because I think we've been talking about that, in different ways over and over. But I mean, I think that's something that comes up, and it usually comes up with questions around it being like, how do I do that and not offend this person that's gone before me? Or, how do you just authenticate your journey so that it really is truly yours and truly approachable and means something to you and doesn't offend anybody else?
Well, I'm reading the comments. Wayne, thank you. Fired with enthusiasm. I think that's a great description of living out loud. It's fired with enthusiasm. That's exciting. And then Gina, Reverend Gina, thanks so much for being here. Anyway, that's right. I can't see the little tiny picture.
Teach me.
Teach me, she says, living out loud. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And talking about, what's new about January. So where do we start?
With our week. How's your week been?
My week has been very good. I've been feeling much better and recovered. And we finally, 4 days ago or whatever, we both tested negative for COVID. So that was exciting. And it feels like it can sort of lean back into living with the rest of the universe now that I'm not feeling like guilty for walking anywhere and saying hello to anyone. So
it's true. You do feel guilty, don't you?
Yes, you do.
I felt guilty too. It's like, I don't want to breathe or be by anyone. And then I was like, then I thought, well, how many of these people really have COVID under their mask and they're really just not doing what everybody's supposed to be doing? It's a very, how do you classify it? It's a really interesting journey, I think, because you have to believe that everyone's either doing the right thing or they're not, and you have to then factor in where you can play in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's it mean to be doing the right thing? And, and is there a right thing, which we all know is a point of debate. Everybody's doing what they need to do. Right. And so the couple times I needed to go out and get something for us like ginger ale or something, I had to put on my mask and go in the store and grab what I needed and move on out, and just try not to spend extra time anywhere or spend any time chatting with people. So anyway.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm such a California girl that, to be outside of that box, I just become aware of all sorts of things, how different it is. Like in where I live in California, a lot of people still wearing masks, a lot of people very attentive to different things, and then I come somewhere else and not so much. And even things like, just finding toilet paper covers in the bathroom. No, they don't have those, up on the wall. And so it's like, and not that I think, a flimsy piece of tissue paper is the answer to keeping the world safe, but I have in my own mind like this balance of like what's real and what isn't, and how do we support. I don't even know what I'm supporting. The race conscious thought that by putting these things down that this helps. I don't know.
Well, how do we live out loud and and really live in that space of knowing and believing that it's not about all the fears and the appearances of the world, and yet we're walking through that world with others and being respectful and nice and all those things. It was a test for my faith in a way, because I really couldn't move out of that space of feeling yucky, and I was like, well, is this, is this me? Did I do something? Am I not saying, hey, let this go? So it's a place of learning how to be gentle with yourself. And so we said, how was your week? And I think the great thing for me this week is finding out that I'm really anchored in support out there in the world, and in my work and in my family. And that has given me a great joy and also forced me to take advantage of it, say, yes, I could use that help. Yes, it would be great if I just laid down and took a nap and y'all did whatever you need to do.
And I think, honestly, that those things that you're talking about, I think that they play into how do we live out loud? Because I think when we can find the balance in all of that, that supports us in taking our full steps that we need to take and leading us to, that place that we can say we're truly making noise and making it just a little bit louder, a little bit, wiser, a little bit, whatever it is that we're aiming for.
So I've got some fun quotes this time for our good news for me. Do you have something for the good news this week?
I do.
Okay. Would you like to share the good news?
No. You go first.
All right. Well, I found some quotes, which normally we're looking more for things, stories, etc. But this is a little different. I did find one great story, and those of you out there who may have ever felt depressed in your life, I thought this was fantastic. A woman last year who was working on improving her depression, her feelings of depression, decided that she would try something new every single day. And she did that for a year, and now she said, I'm going to keep doing it because it's made such a difference. What a concept, right? What a concept to just do something new every day. How that could change how we see the world. And that, I think that goes right along with the living out loud or jumping into our month. I mean, it's going, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to get in there and go. So that was one. And a quote that I found that I really liked is, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change.
Mm.
So, whoa, it's not just because it's suddenly 2023 and everything is different. It's because we intentionally decide, what does that mean and what are we going to do with it? And that's the whole idea of living out loud. That's the whole idea of jumping into this month. It's, in and of itself, it's nothing. And it's not going to change just because, but it changes because of how we decide to approach it. And we have to change our approach many times.
I think that's such a good point. And I think I was really trying to meld it in my mind, which is why I was closing my eyes thinking about, it's also the way you get to even just those first steps of allowing that into your life.
Mm.
I mean, it's really, I don't know, giving to yourself is such an interesting job.
Mm.
But I mean, I just think it really plays on some of the key tools that we'll pull up when we find out more about living out loud.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, my good news, I had two actually. One was that in China they let 13 cub pandas come out today and make their first public appearance. I think they're about 6 months old now, and they made their first appearance and came out to play together. And they are trying to. This is a litter of 13. They are trying to. They will be commingling it back into the wild and all of that. But this panda is about to go extinct, and so just having these new cubs is something that they're really.
So they've actually bred these cubs, and then their hope is to let them all go back in the wild.
I think so, yeah.
Wow, that is very cool. Yeah. That's very cool, and that's not an easy process necessarily.
And then the other thing that I wanted to speak to is what happened this week in the NFL, with the sudden collapse of Demaris. Oh, his name just went out of my head. Anyway, but what I wanted to say about it is, obviously we're all sending love and prayers and just blessings to really, make sure all sporting events are handled wisely, and and that there's always this kind of attention that can be pulled on in timely manner. But one of the things I wanted to say about that is, after his collapse, he has a charity that collects and gives back to the kids in his neighborhood, because he never wanted to forget where he was from. And overnight, they've made over $5 million for his charity to give back to the community and to kids. And I just always find that amazing, like, as a people, how much we rally when something happens. It's just a good sign,
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. Oh, well, it's so great to see you too, Miss Bonnie Gonzalez. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thanks so much. We're happy to have you with us. And I'm not sure, Wayne, what you're up to, but more Tigger and less poo. I think I sort of get it. It's certainly more Tigger and less Eeyore. That's at least my my personal goal in living out loud.
All right.
Woo!
All right. Well, I think that's a good segue. More, I mean, to living out loud, more Tigger, less of any of it. Anyway, so we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come right back here on New Thought Media Network. See ya. And we're back. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and this is Rockin the Love. Thank you so much for being here.
And for those of you that haven't been there, Rockin the Love is really just a show about relationship, and not only romantic relationship, but relationship to everything. Because no matter what you're relating to, it needs to come from that space of love, and that we believe will make the world a better place. That it does make the world a better place. And we thank you for hanging in with us and doing it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, Bonnie said a true testimonial to the human spirit of brotherly love.
She was referring to the gifts from on to the charity, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But it also refers to what we're talking about now.
Okay. What are we talking about now?
So it's a new year, and what happens at the end of an old year, a new year, we all start to make New Year's resolutions or intentions, or look at a bucket list or vision, or make a vision board, right? I mean, there's all those things that somehow signify the end of something and this amazing new possibility. And why? And why? I mean, why does that only happen? I know it doesn't only happen, but why does that only happen with such great impact at the end and beginning of the year? You know, I know we do it, some of us do it seasonally when we celebrate solstice or like a changing of the season, but it's never quite as like I mean, so like I find it fascinating, and this year I was a little more off the grid than usual. I wasn't around as many people, but I find it fascinating how many people are compelled to tell you, "Oh, 2023 is going to be a good year." Like, so many people like want to tell you how the next one's going to be. Like, don't despair. Not that this one was necessarily bad, but I mean, and I understood it in COVID and all those things that we were all looking for something a little more hopeful. But like, what is that happens? Why do we? What
Well, I think the other comment that we sometimes hear is, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad 2022 is gone. I'm so glad we're done with that." Right? And why is that? Well, the year, the demarcation of the year we have somehow adopted in our world, it becomes a very clear place to say, okay, I can start over. Okay, something new can happen. We do it with birthdays. It's another year. I'm another, okay, 52 is behind me, 112 is behind me, whatever it is, and I'm ready to go on to the next one. But I think as humans, we like these places that give us an excuse to make changes in our lives, give us an excuse to do something different. And I guess the question becomes, why do we need an excuse to do something different?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the question, and okay, can we create that? Can we create that? I mean, I think that part of living out loud to me means not backing myself into those corners where, oops, I did it again or whatever, and now I have to
Oops, I did it again.
redo it. Now it has to be even bigger or better, or so it's finding that balance and to go, look at that. I'm that much closer to the way it should be or whatever, and continuing and truly, as new thought, ancient wisdom, religious scientists, whoever's listening out there, just even holding on to that. If we really believe what we say, then none of it can be a mistake. So it's all got to be part of the journey to the greater good, right?
Yep, it does. It's all part of the journey. And maybe that's part of there's this dichotomy there, because there's this idea that we want to make a clear break, we want to let something go, we want to change what's been so that we can move forward into something new. And at the same time, we're knowing that all these things work together for our good. So do we want to jettison anything? Do we want to let anything go? Do we want to throw it away? Um, and I think the thing becomes is, change doesn't mean getting rid of. Change means being willing to take a step in a new direction. It doesn't mean wherever we've been going is bad. Uh, I get lost sometimes when I'm driving. Especially if the phone GPS decides it doesn't want to work very well for me, and I'm totally out there trying to figure out what's going on. Um, but you can't magically move yourself somewhere else. You've got to go from where you are, even if you're quote lost. You're off the track. You've went a different direction. You've gone a different direction. Well, maybe that means you're going to go to where you're going a different way than you expected, but you've still got to go from where you are. Does that make sense?
It's kind of,
Kind
mostly.
of.
I mean, I think.
See how we communicate? It kind of makes sense.
What should I have said? I mean, it kind of makes sense. The other part of it to me is like, I still go back to, so let's start with this question. What does living out loud mean?
Okay, good question. What does living out loud mean? I think It means not trying to hide the fact that you got lost. So, okay, so this is where it is. Living out loud means, all right, so now this is what we're going to do. Versus, oh my gosh, we got to fix that. We've got to cover that up. We got to push that aside. We don't want that to be in the picture. Does that make sense?
Yes, I don't know that I don't know that it had anything to do with feeling lost to me. But I mean, I make sense in what you're saying, I think.
Well, so you asked, what does living out loud mean? And to me, it means being fully present to whatever is in the moment without trying to correct it or fix it, and allowing yourself to jump into the next thing, jump forward into what's coming up.
So like living unapologetically.
Okay, that's a good word. That's a good word. Living unapologetically. I like that.
Living unapologetically. I mean, I feel like for me, that resonates for me more than what you're saying, just because sometimes I find myself being, sorry that I didn't do it somebody else's way, or that I don't think I got the results that they wanted me to get, or that I'm doing it differently. And you know that. I mean, I'm always doing it differently.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do. Is
Yeah.
that I do it differently. And so it makes me think, like, well, I don't know why this one's coming up, but like when we went to that art class and we were painting the picture, and I painted the little bird out on the ledge and the this and the that. It wasn't for anybody. I'm not trying to showboat. It wasn't for anybody else. My ledge needed a little bird. That's all. And I mean, but it's that trust and that knowing this is what I need. Yeah, go.
So living out loud, what I'm hearing from you, at least in part, is trusting yourself, trusting your own instincts, trusting your own intuition around things, right? And being willing to put that out there on display, if you will. Like, put the bird right in the picture. You put it out on display. There it is. Needed a bird.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I think it's trusting that if you do something, it's for a reason. Where a lot of times I don't know, add something in or invite someone into a situation or something, and there's some reason they need to be there if that's what's happened. So yeah, so I would say for me, that's part of it. So we go to trusting ourselves, and that leads us directly to trusting God. We go right back to, can we trust that however we show up and whatever shows up with us is exactly what's supposed to be there, to be handled however. It's so confusing. It's like, don't you just wish that God would give like one little clue? Okay. Like, okay, you can go this way or this way. But it's like, I mean, because I don't know that it's always, we don't know that the situation, like if I show up in a situation and there's, I don't know, somebody that I probably wouldn't have invited to that situation, is it because I need to be open and willing to embrace this as a thing? Or is it because I need to be strong and say, you know what, I would love to hang out with you, but not right now. This isn't the appropriate time. So like then you got to figure out, is it about you getting your, huevos on, or is it about, something else?
Well, it's both of those situations. It's funny. It's a funny situation you said, because in either decision, you've got to make the choice to decide to pull it together, whichever it is. I mean, either you're going to pull it together and deal with whatever feelings you have about this person being there, or you're going to pull it together and say, I don't have to do this. We don't have to be in the same place. I can go home or whatever the thing is. Both of them require somebody to pull themselves into a place of making a change of their normal behavior, their normal the what was it, the path of least resistance, which would be to avoid whatever situation that is, whatever the heck that was about. You just plain avoid it. I'm not gonna, I'm not going to the party, and I'm not gonna, whatever. Does that make sense?
You might want to stop asking me that at the end of your sentences.
Okay, I think I'm going to stop asking that
I mean,
question
because I don't
because
know
I'm
that
going to live unapologetically.
Well, I have the answer that you want. I mean, I'm processing what you're saying, and I can't really go, yes, that makes sense. But I want to ask Gina out there because Gina says living unapologetically, that would be huge. And I want to just talk about that hugeness because somehow it does feel huge. And I'm sure if our doula for grief is still out there, she knows how huge that would be because she deals with people who are constantly feeling remorse for different things. So, like, how do we hone in on that and not make it so daunting? I guess is the word that comes to mind. And so Bonnie, please feel free to chime in. And there she is chiming in. She says, living unapologetically for me means I am not living my life in a limited fashion because of what others may think of me.
Mm-hmm. And so, does it matter what others think of us? Sometimes, does it?
Yeah, I think sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in our mind it does.
And I think that's the thing. That's the thing. It's really about what we think about what someone else thinks about us is what it comes down to. What do I think? If you have a particular thought, how does that what does that make me think about myself based on your thought about me? I mean, it's very convoluted, but it always comes back to our own relationship with ourselves. I mean, why is it important for me for you to think a certain thing? Why is it important for me for you not to think a certain thing? Right? And I'm sorry, I said right there, asking for your input, but I get it. No more input.
Well, I think that, but that's a perfect example of why we do it, right? Because we turn to the people we love and go, right? It's like a check-in.
Yeah.
And
am I on the right path? Did I say the right thing? Am I making sense? You're right. You're right. That's exactly. And I'm clearly guilty of it.
Oh, she's
on it today.
What others think of me is none of my business. Have you heard that expression?
Yes, somewhere I believe I heard that. And
thank you, Bonnie.
Every time I hear it, I have to remind myself that it makes sense. Because I think it's so easy for me to be concerned about your business. For instance, Bonnie, I want to know what you're thinking about me. I want to be involved. I want to make it my business to know what other people are thinking or doing. And I have that in a lot of areas. Not even how they think about me, but I want to I think it goes beyond what do they, what others think of me is none of my business. What others think of anything is none of my business. What others think of and how they do certain things is nothing of my thing. I need to be living who I am and on that space of unapologetically just being the best person I know I can be.
It's so interesting. I don't know how everybody out there feels, but I feel like, I rarely feel like anyone's paying any attention to what I have to say. I never think of like, well, they're probably talking about me, or I never even imagine myself in those situations because I just think, why would they be talking about me? But then like every now and then I get surprised, like whether it's at church or at a center or somewhere where somebody will come up to me and start talking to me about me, and I'm like, wait, all I did was stand up there and pray, or all I did was stand up there and do announcements, or they're like, oh, and when you did that, that was so great. And it really made me, I'm thinking, what did I do? I was just being me. And so it's interesting, like if I could stay in that space of not thinking about who being me is, or what I'm doing or how it looks or what someone's gonna think, then I'm kind of doing it. I'm living unapologetically because I don't even know what I'm doing on some level. And not in a bad way, but you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean, right? Do you all know what I mean? I know what I mean. But like I don't know. It seems like it's like really complex and really simple all at the same time.
Yes. No, I absolutely, I'm hearing you. You really struck a chord in there about that idea of of when we're in that space between, what am I going to say or do that's going to impact other people, and how is it going to do that, to I don't care, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. There's something there's something in there around this idea of living out loud, that is where you just show up. You just show up and you be whoever you are.
You
And
allow the you to be you.
yes, and you trust what's coming, because there are times when there's things that show up that are questionable, if you will. And you just got to go with it, because that's the truth of who I am in that moment, or that's the truth of what's going on for me in that moment, or whatever that is. And that's that place we're jumping into in our new year of, okay, I'm not going to spend all of my time trying to edit what's going on, or I think even more than that, I think what I tend to do sometimes is edit what's going to happen. And you can't edit what's going to happen. Editing happens after the fact, after people do whatever. Then you go back in, you cut out the parts you don't need, you throw stuff aside, and that's editing in a film or a sound version, excuse me. But I think at some levels in our lives, we think we're gonna edit something, and therefore change how a situation is going to come out, how it's going to happen. I don't even know if that makes sense, but that's what's coming to me. Editing, folks, editing.
Well, I think that I think that it's so fascinating, and that's why people often say to me, "Oh yeah, when are you going to ministerial school?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, not happening," because because for me, the people that inspire me the most, now whether this is true or not, but they're the ones that appear that they stand there and it's coming through them. I don't know. Maybe they've practiced for 100 hours that week and they know exactly how to look like that. I don't know, but they've got me fooled. So anyway, it feels like that. And that's how it feels to me. Like if somebody says to me, so tell me why you're a practitioner and what's that like? And I just tell them, as opposed to if they go, can you go home and write a 10-minute talk on what it's like to be a practitioner? And then I'm more in my head about it and I'm more thinking about it. Whereas like after I've spoken just off the cuff to people go, oh my God, I always remember what you said about being a practitioner. And I'm thinking, well, what exactly was that? Because it was coming from that place of just allowing it to come through. And it's like, I don't, it's, and again, that to me speaks so about being in the moment, and we all have those moments where we're in the moment and somebody will tell us the next moment, that was amazing. And you're like, what? Because you were in the moment.
because you were living out loud in that moment.
Yeah.
Without reservation, unapologetically. Thank you, Bonnie, for your comment about Nelson Mandela. Never, he says, never underestimate the power of what you do. And I think that's the idea, that when we live out loud, we don't take back, we don't hold on to those things that we're afraid might do something we don't want them to do, or they might make us look like we're trying to be something that, you know, is overbearing or too big or too whatever in a situation. And the places where people are moved are when somebody does something that isn't what they expected, that is something bigger, that is something braver, that is something new.
That is something authentic. That is something real in the moment.
Right.
You know, and again, coming from a place of being a performer, an actor, an artist person that I am, it's like that's why people get so excited when things go wrong in a show. People get so excited, like, you know, someone comes out and messes up their lines or slips on the stage, or because it's that moment of like, oh my God, it's not going to work. And then they pull it together seamlessly, and something, it comes from the nothingness, something that wasn't there, that will never happen again that way, that is unique to that moment, that is real. And it's like that, you know?
Mm. So living out loud is living our story off script at some level.
Maybe.
It's living without the script. It's trusting what's coming through in the moment.
Well, and it's trusting, like, I know I've done work with Bonnie and watched Bonnie do work. And it's Bonnie trusting in every moment that even though the moments may not be similar, she's not going to do the same story. She's going to be wherever she is and come from that place of authenticity that speaks to her in that moment. That she may, I mean, how many times do any of us just go, why am I about to say this? Why am I going to do this? And you say something and somebody goes, oh my God, thank you so much. Or I was just thinking about that, happened to me the other day. And you're like, okay. But like you're following that, you know, that voice, that inner knowing. And it's like, I don't know, maybe living out loud means not telling spirit to shut up a lot. I have my own personal relationship with spirit. I'm a little kinder than that, but every now and then I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, you know. And we have very deep discussions. And I, you know, like it's spirit wins a little bit more than 50-50, but we have some interesting conversations.
Knock down, drag out. Bonnie says, I think when we speak our truth, it is heard and gives others the opportunity to speak their truth or to remain silent. And what strikes me about that is it gives people the opportunity to speak their truth or simply to own their truth, simply to realize that their truth is okay, to be with their truth. And when we hide our own truth, then we deny others of that common bond of humanity, that space where we're all spirit working out life in the world. You know, it's all spirit working itself out in this limited space of creation somehow.
Yeah, and I think what else just came up for me is if we're talking about living out loud, it's kind of like sometimes when Gil and I do a workshop with people, we tell them we are going to be processing out loud. So if you hear us take a pause, and I mean, we take a pause and we talk to each other about what's going on in the room, and if we need to change exercises or do it differently, then we do that. And that's kind of like leaving it out loud. Maybe people don't need to hear, but maybe they do. I don't know. But really being able to just be in that moment where if I need to speak out loud or share like that, that's how it happens.
Well, I think the fact that we tell people that we may well have a conversation or whatever, what happens is immediately we've taken away the idea that we're the absolute experts and we're going to show them everything they need to know. We are stepping into that space of being with people. And I think that's the thing about living out loud. I think sometimes it's easy to get confused. Like if I'm going to live out loud, I'm going to be the one who's somehow in front with the lights on.
The sage on the stage.
Yes. Versus living out loud means I'm going to show up authentically. And I think that's what I think it's all about, is showing up authentically. Because just as Bonnie said, when someone hears your authentic story, it gives them permission to have their own authentic story.
Yes. And, I think also, but Gil and I have this thing, I think we've talked about it here before, but where when we have this thing about, would we invite that person over to our house to hang out in the living room? So like when we see somebody like Jackson Brown playing guitar or James Taylor or something like that, we're like, yeah, they could come over and hang out because they've just got that kind of vibe. Or like certain other people. And I was thinking about when you're talking about that, like, why do we love Brene Brown or those people? And it's because we get to see their humanness as well. They tell you about their humanness and when they spoke up and they wish they hadn't lived out loud or whatever it is. So it's like that. It's that balance of real, and so and like Myrna, sorry. Myrna said something about me telling Spirit to take a back seat.
Living out loud, telling Spirit not to shut up. I love it.
That's really just my process of finding my way, right? So take it away because I'm choking.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Myrna says, I think I just got that. For me, living out loud is to stop the outside noise and let the inside noise speak. Wow. Okay. So stop worrying about, stop with all the stuff going on out here and really listen to what's important, what's going on in here. And I think that is really, really powerful. And Sherry, Happy New Year. Thanks so much, Rev Sherry. Living out loud, showing up authentically. And I will go back to not only authentically, but unapologetically. I think that's absolutely key to this whole thing. And I'm excited about 2023 for all of that. We did a workshop on New Year's Eve and invited a few people to come and do some vision boards and hang out for the day, and we had a great time and it was fun. But I found this one particular giant quote that I put on my board, which says, you never know how far things can go if you don't ever try to go there. If you don't ever try to push the limit, whatever the limit is, and whoever's created the limit, and all of that, you never get to those places that are that bring that freshness and newness to life. And I think that's what living out loud is about, is allowing the authentic stuff to come out and not shutting it down before it gets there.
Your doula for grief would like to know, how do you both encourage others not to be limited by vulnerability?
That's a good question.
It's a great question, and
February? Shall we have her on in February?
we'd love to hear your answer to that as well, Bonnie Gonzalez. That's a great question. And we're going to be talking more about that. We'll definitely put that down as a question. Because we're going to be having some great guests this month and next month. I mean, and all year round, obviously, but some interesting stuff coming up. And I think that's it's so important. Vulnerability, that's just a whole nother. Oh.
Vulnerability and compassion and willingness to step into something totally new because of your passion for something. Really being willing to move outside of one's comfort zone for what one believes. Yeah. We're going to have Annette Martinez on this month, and talk about the passion that she has and the work that she does in the world. That's so incredible.
Tell them a little bit about what that is.
She has an incredible relationship with supporting whales finding their way back to freedom who have been in captivity. And it's great stuff, and I'm really excited about that. But I think also even, some of the stuff that she's done has asked her to move beyond her comfort level in different areas, whether it's speaking to large groups or whether it's, jumping into the ocean in a place she's never been, those kinds of things. And because she's so passionate, she's willing to do that because that's what it calls for to continue moving forward with this thing. And who else do we have coming up this month?
We have the lovely Myrna Lopez Trevicek, who will be coming on also to talk about all the things she does in the Spanish-speaking prayer ministries and the just so much. I mean, I think all of this, all of the people we have and know and love out there that are listening, just you're such a wealth of information. And even though your title may be doula for grief or, or whatever,
mom.
No, I was thinking about Reverend Sherry. She had a little tagline. What did she have? What's your little tagline? But anyway, it's just you're such forces of information and beauty and strength, and truly, no matter what it feels like in your world, you are an example to us of living life out loud and unapologetically. And I'm just honored to be on the same journey with you all.
That's why we're excited about the year, because we just get to talk to all of you in all different situations. And we're grateful for all of you being here today and sharing with us. Bonnie says, how about feeling the fear and doing it anyway? See, you're both right. Vulnerability is its own show. Thank you.
So we will be back next week. We will talk about something else, maybe vulnerability. We'll launch right into that. I don't know. I'm not sure if I have a date for Myrna yet. We talked about it yesterday. But well, whatever it is, it'll be good. And we'd love it if you join us here on New Thought Media Network.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. And keep rocking the love. Keep rocking the love with yourself, with your loved ones, with those who challenge your love.
And I think the perfect ending for our show is Wayne, who says, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up.
All right, Wayne, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. So we're just going to do that. We're going to know every day that we're doing that. And we're doing that. We're living out loud, and we're making it happen. So thank you all. Keep on rocking. Love y'all.